It's the last day of October 2024 and I return here to Cessnock Local Court to observe Chris's sentencing. Chris, which is not his real name, is charged with 2 counts of the Bushfire Offence. One is as the accessory for the smaller Pelham fire and as the principal offender for the emergency level Kearsley bushfire. David from the previous part is Chris's co-offender for these fires and was convicted here at Cessnock Local Court in August 2024. Both fires were lit a year ago on the 3rd of December 2023. Chris is one of 4 people charged with a bushfire offence in the Hunter Valley from the 23-24 bushfire season. His case is interesting as it is the only emergency level bushfire before the courts. The bushfires associated with the other offenders are smaller. The Kearsley bushfire jumped a road, threatened homes and led to evacuations. So it will be interesting to see how the court deals with an emergency level bushfire. I would argue there is an additional significance because this bushfire burnt the bush around Kearsley Road, the same road where a member of the public was killed by a deliberately lit bushfire in 2002. What I mean is we have seen a deliberately lit bushfire in the same area which caused a person's death. Of course, David wasn't even born when the person was killed and Chris would have been like 6 years old. So why is the same bit of bush being deliberately lit, especially when we know it doesn't just have the potential to cause death, it has caused death? Would telling the story of the past assist in deterring our younger generations? Starting a bushfire can cause death. Starting a bushfire has caused death in this particular area. Anyways, we don't hear about the past bushfires in this sentencing. Like last week, there's not many people around as it's a hearing day and most of the cases have been adjourned. It's after 11 a.m. when Chris is brought over from the cells at Cessnock Police Station into the courthouse. There's one other person sitting in the empty gallery, a journalist. After sitting in the gallery for a year following these cases, this is the first time a journalist has spoken to me. We briefly chat about the bushfire cases while waiting outside. However, once in the gallery, he does his thing and I do mine. And look, I love a chat. But remember, the journalists are part of my story, so I'm happy to just be left alone to create my storyline. Same drill as last week. Chris returns in prison greens, cuffed, and is led into the dock by 2 Cessnock police officers and the sheriff. Chris has pled guilty to all of the offences, including the bushfire offence, so today will be all about the sentencing. Just a comment to manage your expectations when listening to a sentencing. It is very common for sentencing considerations to be all about the defendant. These are things the defence and the prosecution are persuading the magistrate to consider when deciding on a sentence for this person. I'm sitting there not expecting to hear about the bushfire or the people that were impacted on by the bushfire. I would encourage someone who might listen to sentencing to be aware of this, because it's understandable you may get disappointed that the community isn't front and centre when it comes to sentencing considerations. I'm just saying I find this the norm in these cases. Not saying I agree with that approach, it's just the realities of our legal system. So with that said, the first 5 minutes of sentence considerations is all about what sentencing discounts Chris should get. I'm not going to go through the details, rather I'm just going to say that he did get some discount. So the other sentencing considerations included Chris's background, family relationships, childhood trauma. We also hear that Chris had a rural atmosphere exposure growing up. I take that to mean he grew up near the bush and therefore has a general understanding of bushfires that people who live near the bush have. We hear that Chris has written a letter to the court expressing remorse, which is something we didn't hear in the previous bushfire cases of Adam and David. We hear a little about how Chris started the Kearsley bushfire by taking copper into the bush and igniting it. We hear he made some attempt to put the smaller fires out, however, left the rest to spread as he drove away. It's the magistrate that speaks about the impacts and danger to the community. This is similar to Adam and David's sentencing. It's the magistrate that acknowledges the community. The sentence is an aggregated sentencing, meaning one sentence for all the offences together, including any discount. Chris is sentenced to 12 months jail with a non-parole period of 6 months. That's backdated to September 2024. So I think the insight from Chris's case is that emergency level bushfires appear to cross the threshold for a custodial sentence, meaning jail, not jail in the community, like Adam and David. Something to deter others However, that is dependent on getting the information out into the public domain. I think it's important that the journalists keep turning up and writing the story so the community get to hear about what goes on at the New South Wales Local Court. By the way, the journalist publishes a story later that afternoon and it's in the newspaper the next day. So that's it for the 23-24 bushfire season. All 3 people charged became convicted arsonists. There was a 4th person charged, however, that had a different ending as the court found they were unfit to enter a plea. Check out the previous parts for details. Now, I would argue the story about the Pelham and Kearsley bushfires doesn't end here because there's a twist. When delivering the sentencing, the magistrate discussed Chris and David, but they also said there was another person with them. The person wasn't named in open court. However, thanks to the magistrate, we, the public, now know there is a possible 3rd person involved in these bushfires. This is similar in the case of Adam, where the same magistrate, during sentencing in August here at Cessnock, said Adam and another person who is named in the facts was doing this and that. So I walk away with heaps of questions. I think it's important to explore these people. Are they the principal or the accessory? Will they be charged? Understanding more about their role could give further insights into the bushfire offence, meaning what can we learn that could assist in deterring bystanders or accessories. So while the 4 people charged with a bushfire offence from the 23-24 season have been dealt with, there are 2 others who possibly haven't. So what's happening with Adam's friend and Chris's friend? Remember, these cases are a year old. What happened to the friends? I will see what I can find out and keep you posted.